GameStop has just reported its earnings. So it's time to take a look, see what's going on, how things are going. And as you can see, we closed at $26.93, and right now we're trading in the low 28s now. So we've upticked a little bit because right after the release, it's actually downticked, not too insignificantly, but as the news is being digested, it definitely is starting to tick back up. So let's see what's going on. Now, there were a couple changes and adjustments in the reporting period as a lot of people forecasted. The options markets told that. We kind of knew that that was coming, so they decided to move to today after the close. And we can see overall the company has done pretty well. So let's talk about it. So net sales were at 0.86 billion compared to 1.078 billion for the prior year third quarter. So this was one of the marks against it to a degree. We did see overall sales come down a little bit. Selling, general, and administrative SG&A expenses, 282 million for the period compared to 296. That's kind of what you would expect. That will ebb and flow depending on what's going on in the back end. We really care about stuff like this. Net income, 17.4 million compared to the net loss of 3.1 million for the prior year quarter. This has a lot to do with the cash hoard that they're sitting on and able to make some money from. So cash equivalents, and marketable securities were at 4.616 billion. So that helps them a lot. You can earn a decent amount of interest off of that. Now, quick note, that's not what a company is for. Right. So even though it's great that GameStop is sitting on a pile of cash, it gives them time and choices, but that's not just sit on a cash pile and then count your gold coins. The company still has to be a company. It still has to generate positive revenue over time. Now, I see a lot of people that are just kind of talking about how much interest they can earn from the cash, which is good, but what investors in the market is going to want to see even more importantly is how is it going to start using that cash to drive income, to drive sales. Right now, it's giving it a cushion, which is beautiful. During the quarter, the company completed its previously disclosed at the market equity offering. So we already know all that went through. They sold 20 million shares of the common stock for the aggregate gross proceeds of about 400 million. The company does not anticipate any further at the market offerings involving the offer and sale of its common stock during the current fiscal year. So this is them letting everybody know kind of what the roadmap looks like going forward. They did not hold a conference call, which is their norm, and they just ran the information out through the 10Q. So let's see what else is going on. That we saw a couple things that took my eye. EPS, obviously we had a beat on EPS. What was it expected at originally? It was expected at nothing, came in at like 6 cents or 4 cents, I think. Yeah, so it came in at 4 cents, adjusted was 6 cents. So we did have a little bit of a profit on EPS, which is solid. This is what I saw stuck out to me is sales kind of fell, not tremendously short, but on a smaller metric like this in terms of smaller overall sales number, this is a not insignificant miss. And I think that this was part of the initial reaction, but we can see that we're in profit, which is awesome. Like that's incredible for the stock, especially this time of year, even though sales has declined because of what it's able to do with the cash pile. So let's take a look at the stock itself. It's now down a little bit into the high 27s. We'll see where this settles, but so far, this looks like we'll have a little bit of a gap up on the day tomorrow. Now, it's still going to take time for all this to settle. Then we need pre-market tomorrow. All that needs to settle in before we'll really know where this is going to land, but we can at least come up with some context clues on where it might wind up, but it is being bid down a little bit more. It's hanging around 27.5. This is what I first saw it at. So I would love for it to stop here. It's continuing to go, which would be great if you chill out any second now. We'll let that sort its life out. But let's take a look at the options chain, because the options chain was really interestingly positioned for this. There was 709,000 calls against 279 on the put side. But if we take a look at this front expiration that includes earnings, you can see massive call skew. So this is people across the board definitely playing earnings, because that's the only reason why you're in this expiration this heavy. and they're playing it to the upside. And you can see that the skew in this is significant, especially for a front expiration skew. So to me, this looks like a lot of people that were expecting a bit of a positive result. And it makes sense, right? Because we could all see from a million miles away that the earnings estimates, EPS, were about flat, but everybody knew that they're sitting on the cash hoard. We can all do the math and see what they're going to yield from that, from just holding the cash. So we knew that they were going to come out a little bit positive. So we knew that they were going to beat at least a little bit. So that probably was largely priced in. It's not, everybody knows that, right? So it's not this massive source of deep information that folks don't know, but it's still good to see the activity in the front. So leading for the rest of the options change, though, you can see that we really have a dense centralization of options out in 17 Jan 25. That's super cool. That is people playing a longer term idea. These options have been dominant on the chain for some time now. So even though we clearly have some speculation for the 13Ds, 20Ds, most of the open interest is way out here in 17 Jan 25, which is fantastic. Taking a look at the actual earnings statement released by GameStop, there was a couple other things in here that stuck out to me. So everybody's talking about the net sales falling a little bit short and kind of contracting over the prior period. But what I find also noteworthy is take a look at the cost of the sales. Cost of the sales has come down noteworthy. So that means in terms of gross profit, we're down a little bit, but it's not quite as bad at face value of just net sales missing for a bit because we did have cost contract at the same time, which is fantastic. Operating losses did expand. Interest income we saw also expanded to the downside a little bit. And you can see the total income here, though, was up marginally. And net income, well, healthy, like really, really healthy from this perspective. So the company itself is doing okay. Now, it goes back to what I am oh so eager to know, which is what is the plan for the cash pile? There's a plan. You know that there's a plan. There are smart people involved in this company looking at how they continue to move and transform it. We know that they're taking their time with what they want to do with the money, as they should. They should identify good opportunities that they're comfortable with, that they think will reflect positively on the company. But I want to know what the damn plan is. I'm so curious because there's a lot of ways that they can go with this thing. So they're in a great spot. That's, as I look through this, that's overwhelmingly what I'm seeing. Take a look at net or total current assets, absolutely ballooned up from this right here, which is just cash, right? Sitting on an absolute pile of cash. Inventories came down a little bit, prepaid expenses up. So it's like they have money to use when they're ready to use it. Total assets is up significantly. One slight thing that's a little interesting here is even with the cash, total assets isn't up quite as much as I might expect. So I don't think it's a big deal, but it is something I'm just keeping an eye on, because that tells us obviously that some of this cash is being used for some business use cases as the company itself is navigating what it's going to be doing. Liabilities is up. We know that. We can skip through there. And let's take a look at this. We can see we're starting with our net income. Net cash flows is up 24.6 compared to 19.1. So that's pretty solid. And this is going to be a large reflection of just how much cash we're sitting on for cash equivalents, obviously. So yeah, overall earnings, I think, is pretty solid, all things considered. The company looks like it's in a pretty good position here. Now it's all about what does GameStop become? And that's kind of fun to think about. As much as I want to know, I kind of like not knowing, because it leads to a lot of really fun conversations and brainstorming from people on where they think the company might go. So that's the question I leave you with. Where do you think GameStop goes from here? What does it do with the money? Be an outlier. See you later.